You're listening to ArTEEtude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the deep and unexpected creative ocean of the creative mind. You see, I do it again. We dive into the creativity of my mind now. Second time. Hello, my dear listeners, and I'm looking so forward to having a slightly intimate talk with you, because I'm normally so excited with my guests, and that I forget a lot. I mean, you probably, if you listen to my shows often, you see that my focusing and being concentrated is sometimes difficult for me, so because I have to multitask, and I don't know. So yeah, it's still working, but sometimes I wish I would have a little bit more help with this podcast, but it's okay. It's nice. It's great. I thought, I mentioned that already in the first part. I thought, because that's now the 21st or 21st Triptych episode, I create a special actually an anniversary, and for this anniversary I have a bottle of wine, and I open it now, and celebrate that with you together. So, slanche. It's a great one. It's very good. She's into TV. No. Yes, this podcast is for me a completely new medium, and I really love this experience. On one side, on the other side, it is quite exhausting, and sometimes as well, and actually always as well, very, very. It's getting under my skin. It's getting very close to me, because every person has a different story, and there are some stories are less sad or exciting, but still interesting, and others are so like one of my last talk guests. I call it actually talk, and I don't want to say interview, because I don't interview my guests. I talk with them, and I want to be as well. Be part of this podcast and not just an interviewer, otherwise I wouldn't do that, so I mean, I want to have fun, so I call it talk, and if something comes into my mind, I like as well to get engaged. Kendall. So, Where was I? I almost lost the string. No. You see, that's the way. If you drink wine, you know, so you shouldn't drink if you're gonna do podcasts. That's okay. It's an anniversary. My talkers, they are all very special, and I'm so happy to have them. So I would like to continue now with introducing and reflecting on my last talks a bit. I finished it last time with the singer and wearable installation art maker Geraldine Thomas. That was already episode 5. And then I went over to episode 6, and which was as well for me very, very, very special. And it was with the multi-artist and neo-shaman Thomas Wiegand, whom I consider as a very, very good friend, and he was talking about his views. He was very brave, I would say, because he opened his privacy towards the audience and the listeners, and explained why he became what he became, you know. And that was very touching for me as well. And I did, like always, a triptych episode with him, 3 parts. So that was Thomas, and I really, really, really like to thank you, Thomas, for that, being part of this podcast. After that was quite interesting. I came to Bali the Hub, and I was walking through the streets, want to visit a friend of mine, and there was a nice lady in front of the working artist studio next to the Oasis Cafe, and I know the owners of this working artist studio gallery. Hi Mary, hi Paul. You still are on the ball. We still have to do our podcast as well sometimes. And it was the actually Canadian artist. I just have to look up the name.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
It was the Canadian visual artist Jamie Ashford from Toronto. That was episode 9, but I met them because the funny thing was I met her, but I had on the same day, and that was really a synchronicity, a talk with a Canadian bioinformatic artist, Dory Abelman, as well from Toronto. So I met her live in real time and had on the same day to talk with Dory Abelman via it was my first Skype talk, which was very interesting for me. I mean, I never did a Skype talk before, but like we all probably learn in times like this to deal with technology. I started to do a double bender talk with Dory, which is a talk where he sends me his MP3 file and I stitch both files together in order to get a high quality talk, because I like that actually. I mean, I like it actually that if a talk sounds like we're both sitting very close together in a living room, especially in times like this. So yeah, never so close again. No, that's the reason why. Because it's quite nice to create an intimate situation where you as a podcast talk guest feel safe. I mean, feel safe in the middle of a digital universe of maybe a million listeners. I mean, I still don't have a million, but it's getting close to. Yeah. So that was Dory. Dory Abelman. I come back to my other Jamie Ashford artist, but I had Dory as number 7, and he was very interesting because he was a Canadian bioinformatic artist, and he was actually the one who came to me and said, "Hi, Detlef. So how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do a crossover promotion and crossover talk, promotion talk, artist talk?" And I say, "Yeah, why not?" You know, and he was interested as well in paintings and in photography. So I had with him a session about three episodes, and I always I'm thinking about that. How can I mean, I like it to have it in 3 episodes because I think normally 15 or 20 minutes for a podcast is enough attention span wise. I mean, sure, there are podcasts for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's great, you know, but to narrow it down to 20 minutes, it's nice to narrow a subject down for 20 minutes. It's nice, you know, and I mean, 20 minutes it's a talk which is, even for people who don't like to talk a lot, very, very, very quickly done, you know. So I mean, it flies by someone. So even shy people and introverted person can have a sort of a I would say a sacred space here in this podcast, which I try to achieve, and I like that. Dory was great. It was for me. It was a very interesting talk because he was talking about his bioinformatic art, and I mean, I didn't know a lot about that, so I researched a bit as well, and I've learned new things. So and he has as well a podcast called Learn to Love, and he supports couples in order to help them in a relationship. And I thought it was quite nice and cute. So we did as well a podcast promotion for a couple of shows for 2 weeks or something like this, and including this podcast, which was lovely. Then after him, oh, hang on. So now I'm getting confused. Okay, so no, that was right. It was Dory, you know. But after Dory, I had a very interesting talk, and it was an Irish priest, a critical poet, and author, Declan Jones. I'll just have a look through because Declan, he was ordained a priest and spent time as a Franciscan friar. After struggling with many aspects of religious life, he left to pursue a career with NGOs. I forgot now what that means. Working both in Ireland and abroad. In recent years, he has studied creative writing at the Faber Academy, Dublin, and published a number of short stories. And The Calling of John Fitzcanty was or is his first novel. So you can already buy it, so I was speaking with him about his experience in as a Catholic priest in the church, which was amazing, you know. I mean, Especially, he just was there for 10 years and then he stopped it because he couldn't. He was so disappointed. I mean, like we all know. I mean, some people say they give the Catholic Church just 10 more years. I don't know. But he was very honest, and I really, really appreciate that, you know. So I hope he didn't get too much in trouble. His book was about John. I just might tell you, John begins to doubt his vocation, and when he discovers that there is evil at play in the church's youth ministry, he's forced to confront the past he has buried and examine the dark underbelly of Catholic morality. So it turns both charming and challenging. The Calling of John Frusciante is a masterful coming-of-age story that explores how power can corrupt, control, and leave us questioning not just our intentions, but our very identities. So, I mean, that's Declan's book, and I mean, I really, like I say, so I had him in 3 episodes, and it was a very, very, very interesting talk, and shows me more, you know, how I would say, so I can encourage with him, or he probably will encourage you as well, you know. So if you have a vision, do it, you know. You have just probably now one life, and try to do your things, you know. So, and he did with his book. It was out 2014. I don't know so if it sells well, but I think that was not so too not the main point for him, you know. He's not a materialist, not really. So it was a great talk. Declan, if you hear me, it was great. After Declan, I came then back to Jamie. I already mentioned her, so I already made an appointment with Jamie, and she was working in the working artist studios in Ballydohop, and we had the chat over there. It was great. I mean, she was somehow struck in the lockdown. I mean, so we talked about the community of her art education in Canada. We talked about her jobs in Canada. She was working as well for Canadian for the film industry, and a lot of different things, as well as she was now in as an artist in residence at the Working Arts Studios. Lovely little studio, and her artwork was very, very, very touching, and she created as well a sort of a very sacred space in her studio. I mean, I don't know if many people came to visit her, because due to the lockdown it was very tricky as well, and you know, but I think she's still around. I think she was falling in love with West Cork, and I already saw that. I told her that already. So that was a nice talk. That was number 9. Number 10, then I came to David Ian Bickley, or Ian, media artist David Ian Bickley. He's living, I think, here in Clonakilty. And we talked as well about his use in the 80s in England. David Ian Bickley is an award-winning media artist whose body of work spans the primitive technology of the 70s to the digital cutting edge of today. So after a move to Ireland in the early 90s, he was fundamental in the evolution of Irish electronic music, earning a Hot Press Award in the process. So besides producing video art, Pickell has also made important arts documentaries, including The Man Who Shot Beckett and the Celtic Song Lines. The Man Who Shot Beckett is a documentary with a friend of us, John Minahan, and he's living here in West Cork as well. I watched it actually. I watched it after I was getting aware that Ian did it, and it's worth to watch. So his themes reside in mythic and folklore motif, and often use landscape as a form to reflect and process these ideas, which was for me very interesting because I consider myself as well as a my alter ego is a digital shaman, so it was quite close to them what he was doing, and his work as well was Brian Eno or with the sound of Brian Eno, and it was very, very interesting. So guys, you see how many creative and interesting people living here in West Cork. It is a paradise for getting inspired. Not for making money with art, for getting inspired in art, So that was David. Hi, David. I hope you're well. So, and then I continued, and that was quite interesting. I continued, and I think that's the last one for today. I continued with the Mormon podcaster Roxy Mary. That was already number 11, and we talked about her difficulties to grow up in a Mormon community in Utah, and that was again very, very, very touching. And she was very brave to tell us about her problems and issues. She has as well. She has a podcast. She has a podcast, One Girl's Problem podcast, I think, is it? The One Girl's Problem podcast, yeah. So I just read it here. So Roxy Mary is a podcaster and a psychology student living in Utah, the state of the Mormons. She describes herself as just one girl who is ready to voice her problems with the world in hopes of creating a community of women who have shared similar experiences.
This is
The One Girl's Problems podcast will tackle body positivity, mental health, sexism, and so much more. So, cheers. Roxy Mary, I hope you are well. It was a great talk, and thank you very much to be here. That you used to be here in my show. Especially Utah is such a great place. Max Ernst, he was inspired by Utah. Max Ernst is actually, he's considered as well as one of the inventors of surrealism. His frottage collage technique is unbelievable, and as well as he studied the Grand Canyons, and all that is very close to. It's very touching and close to somehow to very archaic moments in the diary of our planet. Take the Grand Canyon. It's already a diary of our planet, and if you go through all this parts of stones in this Grand Canyon, you can read a lot. All right, I might go for the end of this show back to one question of our listeners, and I'm still not going for the question, did you always want to be an artist, by Sophie from Avignon. So sorry, Sophie, it might take too long. I don't know. I have another question, which is quite nice. It's from Peter from London. Hi, Peter. He asked, what does vulnerability means to you? And I would say vulnerable. I mean, it is for me very very necessary to work with the categorical imperative of Kant. That means treat others like you want to be treated. I think that's very necessary, and I think that's especially in our life, especially now in 2021. If you walk, I mean, I've got the feeling if I walk to supermarkets, and some people are overstressed, understandable. Some are so overstressed, and but things like this that can create a chain reaction, I mean, as I used to live in Germany, in Cologne, so I really the people were driving me mad in supermarkets when they were unfriendly for no reason, I mean, sure, you shouldn't take it personal, but if you live in a city, it is very very difficult not to take it personal, because you already have the pressure inhaled, digested, So, I think this is for me the biggest point in vulnerability. Taking care that you don't hurt your neighbors, your friends with words, and I mean, I know that in younger years, I used to be more cynical as well, and I apologize for that. I mean, I really don't like that, but this is what I mean with chain reaction, and that's the reason why I live here, so remote from cities, because people are somehow nicer to each other because they live more closer to nature, and because they have a catalyst called nature, and maybe this is a good point to stop this episode now, because I think keeping our nature is necessary in order to keep ourselves somehow, or to keep us sane, so not creating a chain reaction where we're gonna become all just assholes, For that, thank you very much. Who was this question? Peter, and all the best to London. I thank you, dear listeners, as well, to listen to this podcast. I mean, I don't know. So if you have questions as well, just write it to my info@ArTEEtude.com account, on info and then at ArTEEtude.com, and I might try to answer your questions in one of my next podcasts. I think I like this format, how I'm gonna do that now, and I might maybe change my concept a little bit of my podcast too. So yeah, write what you think about it, and I'm looking forward to read it. I'm looking forward to stay engaged with my dear email question listeners and whatever. I mean, that's this podcast medium is should be an interactive thing, and I like to continue that, On that note, everyone, have a lovely day, evening, week, but I will see you soon. Bye. This is a listener-supported show. I feel honored if you subscribe to this show. You can follow me non-financial with the following click on one of my Instagram accounts, or subscribe the visual version of this podcast on YouTube via the link below. If you like what you hear, be sure to tune in this Sunday for the third part of this ArTEEtude audio triptych. If you want to leave a donation for a coffee or a bus ticket, just follow the donation link via the ArTEEtude podcast account. Eventually, I would like to thank, through this medium, all my members and listeners of the I Love West Cork Artists Network from all over the world. Just to remember myself that without you, this here couldn't and wouldn't happen.
You have listened to ArTEEtude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. ArTEEtude, never so close again. That was too close.